Car chases are dangerous and unpredictable. Viewer discretion advised.
We are following some breaking news right now. A pursuit is underway, and our assignment manager Mark Liu is at the desk with the view from SkyCal. Mark.
And that's right, Marcia. SkyCal literally just getting overhead right now. LA County Sheriff's Department chasing a stolen silver Kia on surface streets in the Maywood sort of commerce area. This is the vehicle in question now. For about the last 20, maybe 15 minutes, Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies have been chasing this silver Kia here, described as a stolen vehicle. Lights and sirens right behind this driver. They were on the 105 freeway, then they got on the northbound 710. And just, I can tell you, in about the last 60 to 90 seconds, the watch commander and the air unit have made a decision to go into what's called surveillance mode. And we have seen this before. This is where the patrol units that are in lights and sirens pursuit behind this driver are going to back off. They're going to give this driver some space here as they head through these surface streets and only follow it with the air unit. Now, there is a very experienced air commander in that helicopter, that Sheriff's Department helicopter, and he is going to be calling out the direction and speed of travel of this vehicle while these patrol units are going to stay behind. And hopefully the idea here, Marcy and Rudabeh, is to give this driver a little bit of space, have them calm down, maybe decide that they can get out of the vehicle and maybe slip away. That's when a Sheriff's Department deputies are going to come up and try and take this person into custody. Now, so far we know this is a stolen vehicle. Don't know where it was stolen out of, but deputies began chasing it on the 105 freeway this morning. And there's only one person in the vehicle so far. I've definitely heard the patrol units and the air commander discuss how they only see one person in that vehicle right now. No information about whether or not they are armed. And this driver driving very sort of matter-of-factly now, obeying the rules of the road. But just a few minutes ago, right before SkyCal got overhead, I did hear the patrol units on the ground say that this driver was running red lights, had been driving on the shoulder, and did get off the 710 freeway because of a large amount of traffic on the freeway. Probably morning commuter traffic was so heavy that this driver was actually stopped at a standstill. Now, we don't have any video of that, but they were able to maneuver through those lanes of traffic and get off the freeway. And now here they are on Slauson, passing Malt Avenue, sort of in the commerce area, Southgate area right now of Los Angeles. And so right now, I believe the air unit is just sort of coordinating with the ground units to follow this vehicle at a distance and hopefully get this driver to perhaps give up in their own time, maybe stop the vehicle and get out and get on foot. That's what they want to see here. They want to see this driver out of this vehicle. But as I said before, stolen vehicle, Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies chasing this one on surface streets after a pretty intense pursuit on the freeway, now heading down surface streets a little bit slower and a little bit more in control.
At the streets this driver is on, you can see why they're not pursuing the driver with lights and sirens, because there have been pedestrians we've seen. There's a U-Haul right there, or some sort of semi-truck, and other traffic on the road. So it is a really dangerous situation. You talk about the rush hour commute. It's 7:04 right now. You can imagine this driver might get stuck in more traffic. The freeways are very crowded as people head out to work, having no idea that this driver probably is being pursued right now. When do they turn on the lights and sirens, Mark? When do you think that they might do that?
Well, it's funny you were discussing that. I was just now I was listening to radio traffic that the air commander was speaking to the watch commander and also the units on the ground. Even though they are in surveillance mode, they are discussing the possibility of using a pit maneuver to end this pursuit. They were just polling their units on the ground. Hey, is anybody on the ground nearby in this pursuit trained to do pit maneuvers? Not all deputies are trained, or they're up to their training, but most are. And that would, of course, entail a patrol vehicle coming up right behind this vehicle, lights and sirens, obviously giving them commands to stop. And when they would refuse to stop, that's when they would execute that pit maneuver. We've seen it hundreds of times before, where they're going to come up on the right or left side of the vehicle in an open area of the road and just give it a little bit of a nudge to turn it around. That can usually disable the transmission or disorient the driver. A lot of times pursuit drivers give up after that when they're face down with several patrol vehicles facing them with the doors open and the guns drawn. So even though they are in surveillance mode right now, they are discussing the possibility of doing that pit maneuver. That, of course, as you said, would require a lights and sirens pursuit. They would come up right behind this vehicle, but they have not yet engaged that plan. They're going to give this driver a little bit more time in surveillance mode to see where he goes and whether or not he'll give up on his own.
Well, and one thing I think is interesting as we watch this is when the vehicles in front of him came to a traffic light and stopped, he didn't try to go around them into oncoming traffic, and that's something we see a lot of times in these situations. And a part of what makes these pursuits so dangerous is these drivers put themselves in the middle of intersections going the wrong way. Other drivers, of course, don't know this pursuit is happening, and so we see a lot of accidents in these situations. But he seems to be following some of those traffic laws and also doesn't seem to be speeding all that much. So that's one, I guess, if you're looking for a positive thing as we watch this pursuit, but that could change at any time.
Maybe trying to keep a lower profile. You get a little glimpse of the driver there through the cracked window, and you just always kind of wonder, Mark, what they're thinking. What kind of desperation has led them on a pursuit with police behind them, law enforcement, CHP, pursuing them. Now you see the driver stopped in the middle of the road there. And it looks like some movement with the hands. Is he putting his hands up? Is he getting something out to throw it out the window? Now he's starting to drive again. It, for a second, didn't look like he was stopped because of traffic, but maybe that was the case.
Yeah, you know, Rudabeh, you hit on a very important point. The psychology of the driver and what's going through their head is an integral part of what sheriffs are thinking about and how they can end this pursuit. Time and time again, when we have actually spoken to drivers that have been involved in pursuits, they've done their jail time, they've get out. We've asked them in the past, why did you think that you could get away, or did you feel that you could get away? And every time, every one of them said, I really couldn't explain it, but I felt that since there was nothing in front of me in terms of law enforcement, I could just keep going. And that if they were behind me, they had lights and sirens, if I just tried a little harder, I could get away. Now, obviously, you know, in hindsight, they would say, well, that obviously wasn't right. I did not get away. I was taken into custody. But a big part of it is the lights and sirens behind the driver can sort of not encourage them, but make them put their foot to the pedal and keep going, which is why sheriff's deputies sometimes use surveillance mode to get those lights and sirens behind or out from behind the driver's rearview mirror. It can help them calm down a little bit and think, you know, maybe this is over, maybe I can get out of the car. That's really what sheriff's deputies, any law enforcement wants to see, is the driver getting out of the car, because the danger level drops tremendously when there's no longer a fleeing vehicle. You know, I mean, this car is essentially a guided missile right now, where you don't know what the driver is going to do. They can act erratically, and there's extreme, you know, possibility of property and life being lost during pursuits, which is why they're so harrowing and so dangerous. Now, a pit maneuver still hasn't been executed here, and I don't know if they're going to be able to do that on busy morning traffic streets. They never want to commit a pit maneuver when there's other vehicles ahead of the fleeing vehicle, because pit maneuvers sometimes don't go exactly as planned, and that can spin that car out of control. The last thing a sheriff's deputy wants to see is that fleeing vehicle collide with an innocent vehicle during the course of a pit maneuver. So they're really going to hold off on doing that until they are absolutely sure there is no one else on the road, or there's no possibility of them colliding with an innocent vehicle here. Now, SkyCal, our pilot's going to do a really good job here to try and maneuver around that big rig. Of course, that fleeing vehicle right there behind that big rig. This is one of the air units, that green and gold. For those of you that follow us on the assignment desk, we love tracking the different kinds of law enforcement helicopters. That is definitely a Los Angeles Sheriff's Department helicopter. The green and gold demarks those colors. They fly around in this area here, and that's probably the air commander who's looking directly at that silver Kia Soul. Again, a stolen vehicle that the Sheriff's Department started chasing. Los Angeles Sheriff's deputies on the 105 started chasing this morning, just about, I'm going to say, maybe 30 minutes ago. And we have been overhead here now 10 minutes watching this driver kind of, like you said, obey laws here on the surface streets. Speed's not excessive, and it seems to be stopping at all the stoplights now.
If you're just now joining us, at 7:09, and we are following a pursuit by the LA County Sheriff's Department of the stolen silver Kia vehicle. It was reported stolen out of Bell Gardens. It made its way through the Maywood Commerce area. It's now in Whittier on Paramount Boulevard during the morning commute. Very busy roads out there. It's on surface streets and seems to be obeying most of the laws most of the time. No lights and sirens at this point pursuing this driver, but the air units are in the air watching. We don't know if the plan is to use spike strips to perform a pit maneuver to start using lights and sirens, but a lot of people to take into account who just are on their way to work, might be walking outside. It's a very dangerous situation right now. And of course, law enforcement, the sheriff's department, and the officers don't know if this person is armed. They don't know what this person is thinking, how desperate this person is. And this car basically is a weapon, like a guided missile, as you called it, Mark.
Yeah, and that's what I know that idea is going through the head of the air commander and obviously going through the heads of the drivers of the sheriff deputy patrol cars that are still lagging behind this to stay out of view. Thankfully, this driver appears to be obeying all of the traffic laws. But now here, is it a parking lot?
Looks
I couldn't
like a
really
parking
tell.
lot,
It looks
yeah.
like he's in a parking lot. This could be a possibility that maybe he's going to park the vehicle and bring this to an end. No, it looks like he's going to head back out onto surface streets. No, this is still a part. Is this this might be a mall of some kind here? Let me see if I can bring
we
up
see a subway right
on
there
my map. Oh, this might be the Pico Rivera Town Center, possibly. I'm checking my GPS. I'm taking a look here on my computer screen, a map that shows all of the air units. There's a lot of media airships overhead and one law enforcement helicopter following this vehicle here. But yeah, I think this is near Washington Boulevard and Rosemead Boulevard here in the area of Pico Rivera. This is still Los Angeles County Sheriff's Deputy territory, so they're going to be the primary agency here. I do know that the CHP did briefly inquire as to whether or not they should take over this pursuit if it should get on the freeway. A lot of times, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department does like to hand over these pursuits to the CHP if it stays on the freeway for a long time. But since it's on surface streets, it looks like sheriff's deputies are going to be taking this one for now.
And we just got a good look at the driver of this stolen vehicle. He just had his window down, and you worry about the cars next to him. It looked like he almost was trying to talk to the driver next to him for a minute. He rolled down his window, then rolled it back up, rolled it down again, rolled it back up, and then took off. But you can imagine the driver next to him probably has no idea how dangerous this situation is, nor does anyone else on the streets right now or walking on the sidewalk. We also saw a pedestrian walk right by him, and it seems like he's sort of stopping occasionally or slowing down and then speeding up again, wondering
maybe speed bumps in the area.
Yeah.
It could be that. But yeah, it's interesting to watch because he is following a lot. Well, I guess he's rolling through that stop sign. But before, we've seen him stopping at stop signs, stopping and obeying traffic when other vehicles stop at lights. He doesn't try to go around them. So this is really moving at relatively slow speeds as well.
Yeah, that's right, Marcy and Rudabeh. It's funny, Rudabeh, you hit on something that is to me, one of the most interesting phenomenons in high-speed pursuits in Los Angeles and Southern California is when the fleeing driver stops to speak to someone. It's just fascinating. I can't possibly understand what they would want to say to someone during a high-speed pursuit, but we have seen it time and time again. They've either rolled down their window and spoken to another driver on the road, or they've rolled down their window and they've spoken to pedestrians. I can't imagine how surreal that must be for someone involved in that, to have someone who's being chased by the police roll down their window and say, hey, who knows what they're saying if they're saying, I'm being chased by the police. What do you do? It's got to be at least momentarily very frightening to know that there's a very dangerous situation that's passing right by you. But like as you said, it looked like he had rolled down his window and spoken to someone. I just also spoke, that's another piece of information I want to share. I just spoke with one of my colleagues here at the assignment desk. It looks like this pursuit started in the Compton area. Los Angeles Sheriff's deputies picked this up at Long Beach Boulevard and Bullis in the Compton area. So it did start on surface streets and then made its way onto the freeway. I can tell you, we started hearing about it when it was on the freeway, but it looks like it did start in the Compton area this morning on a surface street there.
And the other thing we see often in these pursuits is people who see it on the news, they know it's coming into their area, or they hear the lights and sirens and they actually go outside to shoot it on their cell phones or catch a glimpse of it, which of course is very, very dangerous. So don't do that. Just we're following it for you from a safe distance from the air. You definitely don't want to be anywhere near this. We don't know if the driver's armed. We don't know if the driver is dangerous and what this driver might be thinking, what the driver might do. As we continue to watch this, not sure where he's going and when this might come to an end, but it is coming to an inevitable end eventually. And it's going to be interesting to see if he stays on these surface streets or if he gets back on a busy freeway or a highway. Just wondering where he's going, or if it's just an aimless kind of situation where he's driving aimlessly.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. A lot of times you see these drivers go to areas they're familiar with, but this has been going on for How long now? About a half hour or so, Mark, and it does seem that the driver is just sort of going aimlessly, maybe hoping to buy some time, potentially lose law enforcement. And that's often a tactic we see from these drivers. They just hope that if they drive around for long enough, perhaps they'll get to an area where they feel it's safe to bail.
That's exactly right. You know, you make a very good point. And one thing that we are not seeing so far with this driver, so many times we have seen drivers return to areas they're familiar with. Now, this pursuit started in the Compton area. We don't know if it was stolen from there. It's possible that this vehicle was stolen in this area, or this driver may be familiar with this area. He does seem to be driving, like you said, sort of aimlessly in a residential area, but maybe he's familiar with this and he's possibly looking for someone. You also, Rudabeh, you had mentioned the concept of people coming out of their homes to watch this, or perhaps, you know, try and get, personal video of this on their cell phones or whatever. That is the bane of law enforcement's existence. Time and time again, they have told us that people that do that, it ratchets up the danger and the intensity and the anxiety level of the law enforcement officers that are chasing this pursuit. Because having a bunch of innocent bystanders out there just makes it so much more chaotic and complicated. During this pursuit, they ask everyone, look, please stay in your homes. We don't know if this driver is armed. We don't know what's going to happen with this driver. They're acting erratically. It just really ratchets up the danger for everyone involved. So hopefully we won't see anything like that here in this pursuit. But looking as SkyCal zooms in with its very powerful camera there, you can see that driver, to me, looks very relaxed. You know, so many times we have seen drivers that are up close to the steering wheel. They're agitated. They're fidgety. This driver, if he wasn't in a pursuit, I'm not sure he would look like he was worried about anything at all. So obviously very comfortable in this position right now and obeying the rules of the road. And I'll tell you, they're still in surveillance mode. Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies still hanging quite a far distance back, not with their lights and sirens on to give this driver some space. However, there are 5 helicopters overhead trailing this vehicle from behind. So if he has his windows down, he definitely can hear the buzzing of the rotors above him. And there's the LA County Sheriff's Department helicopter, again, the air commander in that, giving the updates to the units on the ground and the dispatch center, letting them know this pursuit now in the Whittier area, Montebello area. Actually, our GPS is a little bit off there. But just between Whittier and Montebello here on Surface Streets, Paramount and Whittier Boulevard right now.
And he's at a standstill right now. And you talk about him being relaxed. When the window was down, we saw him, it looked like he was almost looking up at the helicopters.
That's what I was going
to say. And then
yeah.
He's wearing his seatbelt. That kind of struck me. He's kind of obeying the laws, wearing his seatbelt. And at one point, it looked like he might be driving with his knees or something and opening something, maybe a cigarette, or he was handling something. So very relaxed there, he appears to be.
Even though he is well aware that he is being pursued. You mentioned, Mark, that they turn off the lights and sirens and aren't pursuing him on the ground to kind of bring some of that stress level down so that the drivers in situations like this don't feel the need to speed and drive quite as erratically. But we saw him look up at the helicopters at one point, so he is well aware that he is still being pursued, and yet we're not seeing a change in his driving habits because of that. Like you said, he is still relaxed, and he, for the most part, isn't speeding. You're right. Yep. He's smoking a cigarette, sitting back, relaxed.
The good news is that we know it's just one person in the car, right, Mark?
Yeah, that is the latest information that we have. Very early on in the pursuit, the ground units that were lights and sirens up close when it was an active pursuit did describe to the commander and the watch commander back at the dispatch center, there's only one person in this vehicle. So we don't think that this is going to be a situation where there's obviously going to be people running in every direction. However, speaking of running, though, I did hear the air unit discuss with the watch commander, we need to be ready in case this driver footbails, gets out and runs. They may have some intelligence, some information that we don't have, that this driver may be in an area that is familiar. And when that happens, the likelihood of this pursuit ending with a foot chase goes up, because we've seen drivers try to stop and get out in areas that they're familiar with before. But he is continuing. He's not in that residential area anymore. He's sort of passing into a more commercial area, Paramount and Colmer Avenue in Whittier, as he heads north here on surface streets. He does seem to be paralleling a wash. It's the Rio Hondo River Trail here that he's sort of paralleling. And at one point, The watch commander in the air unit discussed the possibility of the vehicle going either into that wash, driving down in there, or somebody like the driver running into that wash. So they were prepared for the possibility of having to run down there because there are ways to access that flood control channel. But looks like he's driving a little bit further away from that, so that may not be where he's going. Now, if he continues north, he's going to head into the Whittier Narrows recreation area. He could possibly enter that area. He's just to the south of it. Not too long ago, I want to say a couple of months ago, we actually had a fleeing vehicle drive onto the park area of the Whittier Narrows recreational area, driving over the grass and by park benches and things like that. So hopefully we don't see something like that here, but there's always that possibility. But like I said, he's just to the south of that, and he is proceeding north, so he's getting closer and closer to that landmark.
And there are just so many factors for sheriff's deputies to be taking into account right now. You see these men working there. They have no clue probably what's going on and who this driver is, a school bus. It's just really dangerous situation. You have potentially school children on this bus. You have workers out on the street. You have pedestrians. You have a busy rush hour commute. You see him there continuing to smoke his cigarette, the windows down. Looking up, it looks like occasionally at the helicopters, and just wondering kind of what's going through his mind as these deputies try to also figure out what's going through his mind. How dangerous is he, and how will we stop him, and when will this come to an end? And you just think about all the factors they have to take into consideration there, and how dangerous and volatile the situation can be when they don't know where he's going.
Yeah, you know, I just saw, it looks like his left turn blinker is on. He is at Gallatin and Rosemead. Rosemead is a major north-south thoroughfare that heads through the San Gabriel Valley, and if he's going to make a left-hand turn on Rosemead, that is going to take him north into the Whittier Narrows recreational area and past the 60 freeway up into the San Gabriel Valley. This is like I said, a major road that people use to commute to and from work in the morning. Rosemead, it runs all the way north, all the way up into the Sierra Madre area, and all the way south. I mean, you can continue to follow it down into like the Lakewood, Downey, Long Beach area. So this is, you know, some people use Rosemead sometimes even like a highway to go north-south. And now it looks like he is heading north on Rosemead, I believe, and this is going to take him through that Whittier Narrows recreation area right now.
And as relaxed as he seems by some appearances, there's also maybe a little bit of nervous energy there, because you've noticed he puts the window down, he puts the window back up, and I wonder if that's just a little bit of insight into how he's feeling, and that perhaps the way this pursuit is going could change at some point, because he has been obeying traffic laws, not speeding for the most part, but it does seem that perhaps he's getting a bit antsy there in the driver's seat. And
going faster right now than I think he has been since we've been watching him, right, Mark? And I'm actually surprised that there's not more traffic out on the roads right now at 7:22.
Yeah, you know, that Rosemead, I agree with you completely. It does look like he's going to go faster. I'm going to send a message to SkyCal to see if they can put their speedometer up to see exactly how fast this driver is now going. But it does to me look like he did speed up to maybe about the 45 mile an hour, 50 mile an hour sort of speed limit area here. Rosemead, as you can see, is big. It's got 3 lanes, and now he's going to make a left-hand turn here. I'm not sure. This is San Gabriel, I believe, that he's turning on here. So he is now going to skirt the southern end of that park area, and San Gabriel will still take him into the San Gabriel Valley. It goes west for a little while here and then heads north. We're going to pass right by the Montemello Town Center. It's going to just be more and more crowded as the morning commute continues here. This is a busy area. People are going to work, and the danger just ratchets up as we get later into the morning here.
You know, having talked to CHP investigators who handle these pursuits on a regular basis and sheriff's deputies, one of the things they try to do when they know who the suspect is to make contact with them, maybe through a family member, have family members or loved ones reach out to them on a cell phone, try to persuade them to stop and surrender. But when it's a stolen vehicle like this and you don't know who the person is, they obviously can trace it back to the owner. So maybe they know a lot more about the story of how it was stolen and whether the owner knows this person than we do. But potentially they have no idea who this person is, so they can't really get into the psychology or try to convince the person to stop in any other way other than pit maneuver or spike strips, hoping he runs out of gas or hoping that he actually stops and surrenders himself.
Yeah, and usually at this point in the pursuit, it's been going on now for at least 40, 50 minutes. we start to see a pattern sometimes with the way the driver, either where they're going or how they're driving. But I'll tell you, Rudabeh Marcy, he's all over the place. There seems to be no geographic location that he's comfortable with. Every time he heads into a neighborhood, he heads somewhere else. This is the first time that he has been in the San Gabriel Valley now. You know, it started way down on the 105. Now we're much further north. The vehicle was stolen in the Compton area, and here we are on San Gabriel Boulevard. So really don't know where this driver is going, where he's from, or what state of mind that this driver is in. When this was a lights and sirens pursuit about 40 minutes ago, there was reckless driving. There was the running of red lights. There was driving on the shoulder on the freeway, and the danger level was much higher. But now this driver, you know, other than a few bursts of speed here on surface streets, looks like he's obeying all the commands, and as we've seen, laying back relaxed in the driver's seat like really nothing is going on.
And we have the speed now up on your screen, about 40 to 45 miles an hour right now, which is faster than we've seen since we've been following this. Again, this vehicle was stolen out of the Compton area, went through Maywood, Commerce, that whole area, Whittier, and is now in the San Gabriel Valley. So really no idea where he's going. He has gone into a couple parking lots. He's going into a parking lot again here. Lucky right now that it's 7:26 and it's not full of people, but there are some cars making their way through, some shuttles. We saw him go by a school bus earlier, actually but stop at a stoplight next to the school bus. That gives you concern. You don't know if kids are on board that. We don't know if there are going to be pedestrians here or workers. We saw him flying by some workers earlier too. And it just makes you concerned for all the people who are in the surroundings of this pursuit who don't know what's going on. They don't know to take cover. They don't know to, okay, it looks like he's come to a stop now in a handicapped parking spot, no less.
Yeah, this looks like this is just like a small unnamed shopping center, maybe a grocery store here and a couple of other businesses. And here this driver now out of the vehicle. This means that Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies, probably from the Temple City Station, are going to engage very quickly to try and take this driver into custody. The air unit is still overhead. They have got eyes on this driver. Looks like this is probably the supermarket that's right here. I don't know what kind of supermarket it is. I did hear the air unit just copy to all the units on the ground. You know, a male, long, dark hair, wearing a tank top, a white shirt. And I can hear them now trying to coordinate to get units to go in. I don't know if that's him right there.
Yeah, that's him. And, you know, he has a backpack on, which is probably a cause for concern for law enforcement officers. We don't know what's in that backpack. He's getting back in the car now. It almost looked like he tried to go into a business and then thought twice and went back to the car.
Yet, perhaps.
Yeah, but there are cars parked in that area, so it kind of makes me think that maybe it is open, but we now see law enforcement on the ground, and he's taking off again.
Yeah.
So they had an opportunity to engage him. He had an opportunity to surrender there, and instead he's getting back in the car and trying to escape, but it looks like he's surrounded now because he is in a parking lot after all.
Yeah, this is the parking lot of a Walmart here. It looks like he was going to try and get in. I bet you he saw that LA County Sheriff's air unit, and that's when he realized he was still being chased. This is extremely dangerous. Now he is going to try. This is now assault on a police officer, a very serious felony. This may mean that they are not going to go into surveillance mode again. When he makes contact with a patrol unit like that, they will consider that assault on law enforcement, which ratchets up the intensity here. It shows that the driver is willing to, engage deputies in that manner, very aggressive, and you can see they're right on his tail now, and this driver now exhibiting those aggressive driving behaviors that we heard about at the beginning of this pursuit, blowing through stop signs, and now back on surface streets here in this area here just to the west of the Whittier Narrows. I call it the Rosemead area right now.
And still using his signal when he's turning, which kind of blows me away. But you just think how dangerous that situation could have been if he is armed. We don't know what was in that backpack he was carrying. And if he went into a Walmart or a crowded shopping center where we did see a lot of cars parked outside that business, that would have been a very dangerous situation. It would have completely changed the game. I mean, this is a dangerous situation as well. But now, these law enforcement officers are very experienced at these types of pursuits. There are different techniques that they can use. They've already obviously verbally told him and commanded him to get out of the car and to probably put his hands up and drop the backpack. He did not obey those commands. commands and instead actually assaulted a police officer with the vehicle there, hitting the law enforcement vehicle. And now the pursuit has resumed.
And it's gone into a residential area, which adds additional concern because it's 7:30 in the morning. You have to imagine that there are families who live in this area who will be heading out to the bus stop, taking their kids to school. And now there is this vehicle that you can tell that his anxiety level has increased now with that confrontation with law enforcement in that parking lot. And we see what's going to happen here as he makes a turn. I mean, he is in, those vehicles are right behind him, and he is now showing no signs of stopping, although he is still going fairly slow. He's only going 25, 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, I really thought that this was going to come to an end when you saw all those vehicles surrounding him and the door opening, at least. It looked like it was going to come to an end in that parking lot, but instead he took off again.
Yeah, that's right, Rudabeh. You know, I'm going back and listening to some of the radio traffic that I had here at my computer. The reason that he was unable to get into that Walmart, sheriff's deputies say, is because the Walmart wasn't open yet. It was still closed. So he approached the doors and then turned around. Now, what we saw in that Walmart parking lot when those sheriff's deputies were trying to get close to him, it sounded like the air unit was giving commands to those deputies to surround him, to try to block him in. He was able to get away, obviously, as we saw. And that air unit, when they saw that collision with that patrol unit, called out a police code on the scanner. They said he 245'd a law enforcement officer. 245 is the sheriff's code for assault on a police officer. And that air unit said, we need to engage him in a pursuit. No more secure surveillance mode here. We are going to stay on this driver, lights and sirens, because he has committed an assault on a deputy.
Because he is clearly so dangerous. And on the right side of your screen, you're seeing what happened just a few minutes ago in that Walmart parking lot where he had gotten out of the vehicle, walked up to the Walmart, realized he couldn't get in, and then walked back to the vehicle. He was surrounded by officers. You saw that collision there, and then he took off. So that's what you're watching on the right side of the screen. On the left side of your screen is what's happening right now. You can see multiple vehicles right behind him. One officer out with his gun drawn, trying to get this driver to exit the vehicle, but there is no sign that he is going to do that. He could take off again at any moment.
And the sheriff's deputies kind of seem like they're waiting for instructions. You see them kind of going forwards and then stopping. At one point in that Walmart parking lot, you could see the driver actually driving in reverse to outmaneuver the vehicles who were pursuing him. So clearly now we see him again. He's taking off. We get little glimpses of him through the open window occasionally, smoking a cigarette, wearing his seatbelt, just kind of appearing to be relaxed, although I'm sure in this situation, you know, he's not as relaxed as he might seem.
Well, and we saw just that relaxed sort of vibe when he got out of the vehicle. He didn't run towards that Walmart. He walked very casually, trying to blend in probably with anyone who was in that parking lot and might see him walking in so that he would look like just any other shopper there that morning. And even walking back, once he realized the Walmart was closed, he could hear and see the helicopters up above. He still didn't pick up his pace and really seemed to take off until he got into his vehicle and saw all of those sheriff's vehicles starting to surround him.
And I just counted at least 8 law enforcement vehicles. I think they're all sheriff's deputies following him at this point. He's stopping at the stoplights and stop signs for the most part. He's run through a couple of them, but every time he does, he's surrounded by people just trying to make their way to work or school or whatever they're doing, just going about their business. And at one point it looked like, Mark, he rolled down his window, appeared to be talking maybe to a driver next to him, rolled it back up again, looked at the choppers above him, and you see a door open on one of the sheriff's vehicles right now. We saw someone before get out, a law enforcement officer draw the gun, and then it resumed again. So several times this looked like it was going to maybe come to an end in different ways and then resumed. And it looks like the car next to him also has maybe the window down a little bit, and that can make you a little nervous when you see what's going on. And a pedestrian right here running toward the car.
Oh, this is very bad. You do not want to do this. This is exactly what sheriff's deputies do not want to see here. This person interfering with a pursuit ratchets up the level of danger here. You know, deputies do not know if this person is being aggressive towards law enforcement or aggressive towards the driver. But now, thankfully, now we are getting away from that situation. Rudabeh, I want to make comment on a very astute observation you made, that there were 8, possibly 9 sheriff's deputy patrol cars behind this vehicle. They are going to have a very aggressive response here because this driver is basically now considered armed and dangerous. When you make contact with a sheriff's vehicle, as I had commented before, it's assault on a police officer, and they are going to treat this driver as hostile towards law enforcement, as aggressive and dangerous towards law enforcement. So we're going to see probably a lights and sirens level pursuit here for the duration of this engagement. And they are going to up the level of officers or deputies that are going to be behind this driver now and treat this person, as I said, as very, very hostile because this driver has shown a willingness to collide with a patrol vehicle and not stop, not have any regard for that, and keep going. I can also tell you when they stop their vehicles there and they open those doors, they are giving commands to this driver loud and clear on their loudspeakers to surrender, take the keys out, throw the keys out, and get out with their hands up, and this driver is not complying. Now, we are back here in the Whittier Narrows recreation area. Like I had mentioned before, we had seen a pursuit go on the grass here. This is a very, very large open area, a recreation area, and there are some trees. Sky Cal is going to do its absolute best to maneuver here to get us the best shot, but unfortunately, I am familiar with this area. This stretch of road does have trees on either side here, so as it winds through this park area, we may lose sight of him just temporarily, but I can guarantee the air unit definitely sees him, and these patrol cars are not going to give up here.
And luckily not a lot of traffic there in this recreation area. And, you know, the thing that struck me when he got out to go into the Walmart is that he took that backpack with him. And that I'm sure is a great cause for concern because we don't know what was in that backpack. We don't know what his intentions were inside the Walmart. And if you can imagine how crowded a Walmart gets later on in the day, that can be a really, really scary situation. It looks like he's coming to a stop again. It's a dead end, it looks like. And he might be trying to outmaneuver all of the law enforcement vehicles here, but he has come to a stop yet again. One of the doors is open, two of the doors now at least of these sheriff's deputies, three, and we know how many of them there are surrounding him right now. So now it's really coming down to the end game here. What is he going to do? Is he going to obey these commands? Is he going to get out of the car? Is he armed? We know that he is dangerous and he has no regard for the safety of these officers, as we saw from when he bashed his vehicle against the officer's vehicle.
And you can see they have the vehicle surrounded. The deputies are out with guns drawn, no doubt, shouting commands to get out of the vehicle with his hands up. He pulled over a minute or two ago and still hasn't opened the door, and so I wonder what message that sends to law enforcement.
He drove right into that dead end there, so probably was not his intention to stop, but the whole place is completely blocked. He doesn't really have anywhere to go unless he gets out on foot, but we know all of these deputies will be right behind him with their guns drawn if he does get out. So now it comes down to the bargaining, right, Mark? This is like when they're trying to negotiate with him to get out, convince him to get out and surrender.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I can hear the air unit speaking to the deputies on the ground there. They are blocking off any civilian traffic on the other end of the street to make sure that nobody wanders down this way so that they can control the situation as best they can. The air unit did say to the ground units, looks like he's got nowhere to go. Let's try to take him into custody here. And this driver has a big decision to make. It could be a life or death decision about what they do next. We have seen before, if this driver makes an aggressive move with the car, deputies may open fire because they feel that their lives are in danger. The best thing that this driver can do at this point is simply to give up, to put his hands out. They've got a good view. He can see everything that's going on right out his left side window. Now we're seeing one of these deputies units come up. They may very gently tap the back of that vehicle here to make sure that he cannot back up. There is the possibility this vehicle could back up a little bit and maybe get around there. It would be very dangerous for the driver to do that, but he could try and escape by either knocking over that sign or something like that. Hopefully he will not do that. You can see at the top of your screen, it looks like one of those sheriff's deputies has brought out a ballistic shield. That's what deputies are standing behind there. They may use that to approach the vehicle to make sure that this driver doesn't try and pull out a firearm or some other kind of weapon. We haven't heard anything like that. There's no evidence that so far that this driver has any kind of a weapon in the vehicle, but sheriff's deputies, they're not going to take a chance. They're going to treat this suspect as armed and dangerous, and I can tell you right now, they are giving this driver commands to surrender, come out with their hands up. Now we're seeing the driver's door opening, and it looks like he's going to comply, and this pursuit finally now coming to an end here in the Whittier Narrows recreation area.
Yeah, such a kind of an ideal way for something like this to come to an end because there aren't a lot of people around. There's not traffic. He didn't bring his backpack out, because even though they have their guns drawn, if he was behind the vehicle and he rammed one of them or rammed one of the cars, he could still really injure them. So it has come to an end peacefully, and we've been watching this now for how long? An hour. It started in Compton, it went through Maywood and Commerce, then into Whittier and the San Gabriel Valley, where it has now come to an end in this recreation area relatively peacefully.
Yeah, it's, you can see there, it looks like that driver maybe struggling just a little bit, but, you know, they are taking him into custody. They patted him down. They're going to check that car just to make sure there was nobody laying down in the back seat or the trunk. They always make sure, and hopefully we will see these deputies once they open up. We might show, they'll hold up their hands with 4 fingers up. That's code 4. That means situation under control. That's what we're looking for. They'll probably hold their hands up. There it is, code 4 to the air unit to make them aware there's nobody else in the vehicle and everything is over here.
Okay, and this is, I mean, exemplary work by the sheriff's office here, because we watched step by step. At first, when we came to it, it was just air units overhead. They were not doing a lights and sirens pursuit, trying to keep this as safe as possible. And that's exactly what happened. There wasn't a point that we saw when we first came to this at the top of the hour where there was an immediate danger for pedestrians or other drivers. We didn't see this driver running red lights, running stop signs. We didn't see a lot of pedestrians out on the street running out. We did see that one man run up to the vehicle. But fortunately, this stayed relatively safe as far as pursuits go, and a lot of that is because of the way the sheriff's office chose to pursue this driver.
Yeah, you know, that's exactly right, Marcy. This is possibly what you were touching on here is why they do surveillance mode. We haven't seen any collisions except for that collision right there in the Walmart parking lot. I don't think, excuse me, there was even any damage to the patrol vehicle. There was some damage to the fleeing vehicle, but again, no injuries here at all. I just heard the air unit confirm with the units on the ground, is an ambulance required here? They say no injuries. They gave it a code 4, and they actually sent their radio channel back to what's called, you know, regular broadcast. They had it on an emergency hold where only radio traffic relating to this pursuit was allowed. They've gone back to regular transmissions now. Deputies are now going to respond to regular calls and continue their police work for the day. But this one here, it looks like no injuries and the suspect in custody.